Good morning, everybody. This is Nick Augustine on Law Talk Radio, and I'm here with Steve Fretzin, Be That Lawyer. So, Steve Fretzin of Be That Lawyer. Steve is my buddy. We've known each other for a long time. And today on Law Talk Radio, we're going to talk all about what he does to help lawyers, some of their pain points, and what they can do to sort of reinvigorate, reinvent, be authentic. What's some of the best marketing he's seen, some of the worst he's seen. We're just going to have fun with it. So, Steve, let's tell us who you are and how you help people.
Thanks so much, Nick. I'm thrilled to be here, and so I'm pretty straightforward. I'm a specialist in the legal industry for the past 18 years. I only focus on helping them grow their law practices. So I work with individual attorneys through coaching and training, build them up to the point where they get to 1 million plus, to get them into my Rainmaker roundtables. So then I'm facilitating high-level roundtable peer advisory mastermind groups for some of the best business developers in the country, in the world. And then starting April 15th, I'm launching the Be That Lawyer community. And this will be a program for any lawyer that's growth minded, that wants to get into my community, content, video, articles, communicating with Rainmakers, live events. It's going to be a full platform for ambitious attorneys to go. They never have to hire me directly, but they can get engaged with me and all my stuff. And so that's really what I'm up to. But the goal and my plan for through retirement, which hopefully is a ways off, is to just help the legal industry be better, to learn all the stuff you never learn in law school, and to really just try to be a resource for lawyers who care about growth and see the future as uncertain, and to help it be a little bit more certain through growing their own book of business, their own clients, having that control and freedom, independence in their individual careers.
Absolutely. And it's important stuff. Steve, I can remember when I first got started in 2005, I was 3 years out of law school at John Marshall. I was in DuPage County, and all these people were leaving their firms and starting their own stuff because they had internet and they were starting their own firms. And everyone's like, what? Why are these people leaving? And everyone all of a sudden wants to be a solo or a 3 to 5 person shop. And over time, I've seen a lot of people like, oh my gosh, it's a lot of money and it's really hard to get clients. And they have to, the amount of money they spend on marketing and branding and everything, like
Yeah.
they're seeing the benefit of going back into multiple people, but not big firms. So a lot of the things have changed in the industry over the last 20 years. So and guys like us, like it's a good time at our age is to like help our friends to stop and think about what's going on and sort of reinvent and reinvigorate. So
Yeah.
my first question is, what do lawyers tell you is one of their biggest struggles?
Yeah, it's really about the fact that as I mentioned, that you don't learn this in law school. You don't learn business development, personal branding, time management at the law firm level. They just want you to bill hours and become a great lawyer. And I'm going to say, just straight up, like being a great lawyer is table stakes. You have to be a great lawyer. And then from there, it's how do you plan and execute in a way that is proven, in a way that's systematic, to accomplish growing your own client base. Most lawyers are out there just running as fast as they can, trying to figure it out on their own and come up with their own ways of doing things, and it just burns through hours and years of their life. And so I'm really trying to help them through writing, Write for Above the Law, through my 2 podcasts, Be That Lawyer and Future Rainmakers, through 1,100 videos on YouTube, to really try to help them understand, like, there are systems and processes and language that they should be using to get to where they want to go, as opposed to just throwing as much on against a wall hoping that it sticks, or just winging it, which is not a real strategy.
Yeah, Steve, I have always loved Above the Law. I thought it was a great publication. It caught some traction when it first came out. People are like, what is this? It's not as like buttoned up and everything. And it's along that line of talking about being a lawyer and talking about marketing and business development. And people are like, ew, scary bad words. Like that, there's such a elevate the, I remember being, thinking like, well, that's not something I could even deal with. That's so far beneath me. And it's so ridiculous. So why do lawyers, other than how we've been taught, why do we resist this topic of business development?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question, Nick, and it's obviously very simple. Like I got into sales when I was 16 years old and sold shoes, as a high school job. I got out of college, I went back into sales. I kind of moved up the food chain, and just sales is what I've always enjoyed. I consider it problem solving, and I always hated the idea of selling and convincing and pitching and trying to jam somebody into a situation, a service, or a product that wasn't really a fit. So when I started my coaching business back in 2004, I came up with a philosophy, and it's not rocket science, Nick, but it's really important for lawyers to understand. The name of my first book and the system I use and that I teach is called sales-free selling. So it's really about how do we develop authentic relationships? How do we identify that people have problems that need solutions? How do we meet with them in a consultative, natural, comfortable way? And how do we walk them through a buying decision? That's not what lawyers are used to. They're into the pitch meetings and convincing and doing a lot of free consulting. And so I'm trying to like stop lawyers in their tracks and say, look, you think you know what you're doing, you think you know what's best, you see what other people are doing, and you're emulating bad habits and bad in a bad system. And so when I talk to lawyers about sales-free selling, they really kind of calm down because they recognize I'm not here to sell legal services. I'm here to solve problems. And if I had a better system of how to walk people through a buying decision for a win-win and for a fit outcome, it doesn't feel salesy. It doesn't feel, inauthentic. And that's what allows me to work with lawyers in such a beautiful way because we're not selling in a traditional way that they never really signed up for when they became lawyers.
Right, right. When I was first getting going, I worked with a lady building a legal branch of her recruiting firm, and it was trying to place some attorneys at some firms. And I remember some of the candidates. And one guy asked me, should I take my sales background off my resume? I'm like, no, that's one of your best things to have on there. And he's like, well, it's sales and I'm a lawyer. I said, you don't think that when you're driving home from the courthouse telling your client that they're going to have to pay for this or that, you are now in a sales position because you have to sell that result to them without them lopping your head off. So it's really something that people should embrace if they've got that skill. Steve, what are some of the biggest time wasters that you see lawyers engaged on in a regular basis? And I know I was guilty of this when I first was getting going. Over marketing. Like I never wanted to call people. I would just like write articles until I was blue in the face, hoping someone would find them. And I don't know how much of that was good or how much was time wasting. Some people love going to networking events and they'll network their way out of business because they're not doing the work.
Yeah, that's so great. I was talking to a friend of mine who had been investing, hundreds of hours a year in networking and meeting people. And what we concluded was, unfortunately, he was a professional meter. So highly likable, met a lot of people, made a lot of friends, but no business to show for it. And I feel like a lot of attorneys fall into that trap of just thinking they can attend a conference or thinking they can join groups or write a lot or speak a lot and that business is going to flow in. And again, without strategy, without a plan, without really, knowing who your targets are and focusing on how to talk to people and coach people through who to introduce you to and how are you being a giver and how are you helping others and being authentic that way, it ends up just being, tremendous, a time waster, but you make a lot of friends, but that's not going to pay the bills. That's not really why you should be out there. You can make friends anywhere. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to help lawyers take some time to just sit down and write a plan. The plan should include, who are your targets? Who are you actually looking to work with, like directly? Is it general counsels? In what industry? In what area? What are their pain points? What's their reasoning for buying, right? And why should they hire you? Who are the best connectors, the strategic partners that would refer you into business? And how do you develop relationships with them? What's your infomercial? What's your brand? How are you putting yourself out there? And I like to work with lawyers on a couple levels. One is on the business development relationship level of going out there and meeting people with a process that drives things forward. And while that's going on, also develop content and develop your brand online so that it sort of works together hand in glove so that you're doing things in a couple ways that are continuing to back up and support that you're the right choice for them to keep thinking about and referring. So again, there's two options. One is winging it and throwing a ton of time and energy at it. Another is to actually have a plan and process and systems in place. And again, not taught in law school. So that's why I try to encourage people to get into my content. It's not about hiring me directly. That's lovely when it happens. But ultimately, you have to become a student of the game of business development and marketing. So listening to podcasts like yours and mine and just taking in as much as you can to really start to understand how this should all happen.
Right. Exactly. All right. My next question. Let's talk about mid-career. During your mid-career, what should a lawyer's weekly business development routine look like?
Well, I'm going to give you a lawyerly answer, which is it depends. There are some people that are elephant hunters that just need to get one or two big matters a year. Let's say like, a litigation and the IP side, right? I mean, one matter could be, $1 million. So you don't, you're going to have a different plan than someone who's selling estate plans and needs to bring in, 5 to 10 a month, right? So everyone's going to have a different plan. Everyone's going to have a different level of activity. We have to figure out how to open up banks of time so that if you're getting, for example, work thrown at you by other partners, and you don't have enough time to do business development and build your own client base, we have to work on a plan to break free from that billable hour hamster wheel and the partners that are counting on you and you alone to do all of their work. And then on top of that, we need to figure out like what should your activity level be. So what we do is we talk about like where are you now? Let's say you're at 250 a year. That's, in originations, right? And you want to get to 450, right? So the gap there is 200,000. Every matter that you bring in is 20,000. So if we say it's 200,000 and you bring in 20,000, it means you need 10 new matters or one a month. So if you need one new matter a month, then okay, how much activity and how many referral partners and how much do you have to do to bring in one new matter a month? And maybe that's 30 minutes a week of emailing your network and networking and events and whatnot to get X number of meetings that will lead to that one new matter a month. So we have to sort of back out of what you're looking to accomplish sometimes to figure out what your activity level should be. The other thing I'll share, Nick, is I have a client who just said to me like her business has slowed down, right? And so she has less hours than when it's heats up. And so I was like, okay, so how do you fill that time? Well, there's nothing wrong with filling in that time with a little extra BD, a little extra marketing and branding, because what else should you be doing? Like, there's only really two things you should be doing: the business of law and the business of getting business for law. So, those are kind of a few answers I would give you that will, based on kind of where someone is in their career and where they are and what they're looking to accomplish, how you might change that plan a bit.
Yeah, I did a lot of podcast work with my friend, the late Jim Thompson, and he would always talk about, and he had the book Get Clients Now, which I have a copy of that around here somewhere, but he would always talk about allowing yourself as a lawyer, allowing yourself the time in your schedule to do your marketing, to do your writing, and to reach out and talk to people, making phone calls and, not just emailing something. And he would always talk about the thank you cards.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, if someone refers a case to me, I'm not just going to send them an email. I want a handwritten thank you card that actually matters, so it's like those little things that all matter. Meanwhile, a lot of people we're the worst on monkey see, monkey do. So why is it everyone just copies what everybody else is doing? And why does that fail as a motivator?
Yeah, it's really about how we have a proper mindset. And I know earlier we talked about how lawyers didn't sign up for this stuff, but there's really three things that determine a mindset of a lawyer that's interested in growing a book of business and all of that. It's belief in yourself, it's having a positive attitude, and it's doing the behaviors that make one successful, like the actual actions and activities. And so, any one of those three things could be useful to how we get results in business development and growing a book. My recommendation and what I try to work and instill in my clients and do, I'm also doing everything I need them to do so they can emulate me as their coach, is I focus on behaviors. I really believe that if you commit to something and execute on it and start seeing results, that you get on a positive cycle or a positive wheel of, if you do the activity, even if it doesn't get immediate results, the fact that you're doing it where normally you'd blow it off, it gets your sort of attitude up that, hey, I'm doing the right things. Your belief in yourself continues to rise, and then that makes you want to continue doing those it's like when you get results from working out, right? You start seeing the tone and the muscle, and you're realizing, wow, this is actually producing a result that I'm happy with. And so we can then that maintains a positive cycle. And then same thing would happen if it's negative. Like if you don't do the work, you don't send out the emails, you don't make the phone calls, you don't send out the thank you notes, right? Then your attitude is negative, your belief in yourself is down, and you're on a negative cycle. So that's what I'm trying to instill is how do we keep a positive frame of mind even when the chips are down, and then how are we continuing to grow year after year and have every year be your best year?
Yeah. And don't complain all the time. I just can't stand it when people just complain and like, how are things? Are you? Are things slow? Are things slow? If you've got three people saying that, everyone's going to get the fear.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my gosh, they say they're slow. That means I'm going to be slow. And everyone's freaking out. Meanwhile, the people who are just calm and they look like not a care in the world, things are
Yeah.
happy. They're more interested in posting about vacation pics. Like everyone assumes that they are making money hand over fist. And they're like, oh, I want to co-counsel with them or I want to refer people to them. Like those people are really making it. And you have no idea,
Yeah.
for all you know, like they're just like living off credit cards. I mean, I don't know, but like it's that attitude, like the positive attitude carries on to others. And
Yeah.
it's like that fake it till you make it. Like you've got to like keep the spirit up.
I had a client that is in, M&A is, for some have been down, last, let's say 6 months. And I have a client who like cut his marketing budget and he slowed down his coaching with me and stuff like that. And I explained to him and I said, I'm telling you, I think this is a bad idea, not because I'm looking to get paid, but when things are slow, that's when you double down on marketing. That's when you double down on BD. So if people are around you saying, are things bad for you? Things are slow for me. Commercial real estate's been down. How about you? I would be like, great. Now I have even more time to invest in articles and podcasts and video and networking and getting out there and being different, like coming up with a new presentation of, what to do when real estate is slow and go and meet with a ton of brokers and explain to them how do you market yourself when things are slow and build more relationships while things are down because the pie might be shrinking, but you might get more of that pie. So it's a kind of a different way to look at it, but it's important for lawyers to recognize you got to kind of have a horse with blinders on and just look ahead at the future. Don't look to the sides and behind you. That's what everyone else's problems are. They shouldn't be yours.
Well, right. And it's like marketing and consulting. All these people are like, oh no, AI is going to take everything. So I'm going to ditch my consulting practice and everything. It's like, no, now is the time for you to dig in, use that and offer way more than you could before, and give like maybe like get some good rates. And then you're going to have like people all over the place. And so,
Yeah.
but everyone is like going to write. Everyone tries to run all the time. Like we're such a reactionary. I blame the news. Turn it off. Turn it off.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about authenticity. Like people want people they know, like, and trust. And what I try to do with my lawyers is I try to make them look like real people who are like happy. And I had one of my clients just ran for judge here in the Dallas area, and she did so well. She wiped the floor with the competition. And I'll tell you what, she's authentic. She's like a boy mom of three. Like they did a lot of work with like plastering out the picture of the family and all the thing. And she just, always went to Chamber of Commerce stuff, always went to this, always went to that, and was like posting about like baseball and whatever the kids were doing and everything. And people just liked her because they're like, I trust her. She seems like a real human versus like lawyer in a case, like they're like a statue or something like, and that's just,
Yeah.
it's not relatable. Authenticity is so important. And that has permeated through digital culture. Our culture is different than it was 20 years ago, where everyone thought that like, oh, people in this profession are like this. It's like, no, they're real humans too. So how important is being authentic while maintaining professional demeanor? And now that's the hook, is maintaining the profession
Yeah.
and keeping things where they need to be. You can be authentic without being too authentic.
Well, you can be authentic without being silly and ridiculous. And some people, that's their hook, is they want to be silly and ridiculous and do things that are crazy. In the legal profession, I think we all agree, like that's probably not the play. I have a client named Mandy. She's amazing. She's an estate planner here in Wisconsin and Illinois soon. And she really hadn't posted much on LinkedIn, hadn't done much. She's an incredible attorney, incredible. So from a relationship standpoint and from how she is herself and real and amazing at what she does in the business development relationship side, it's all there. It's all together, right? People know her. She's only attracting the people that are like her. and that she's going to enjoy working with. So crazy people not apply, people that are just not her people, they're not going to come to her. Then on top of that, she starts putting out posts on LinkedIn of her and her husband, who's an amazing guy in his own right, in dance competitions, right? And so they're showing like this is how we spend our time as a couple, as parents, as family, as people who love life. And she's, demonstrating, talking about how dance has really changed their relationship and improved things, and they really love it. And she's continued to show out her authentic self. By the way, I do that all the time. I just posted on LinkedIn. I went fishing with my kid out in Breckenridge. We caught some rainbow trout. But here's the thing: on things like Facebook and other, you can just show fishing. For LinkedIn, we have to be careful. So I want to show my authentic side, but I also want to make sure it's business related. So I'm just putting this out to the world that I show the picture of my son and I catching a fish, and then I talk about how lawyers need to continue to fish for business, or lawyers have to think about how they're going to, continue to, find the right water where the fish are, and they need to continue to learn how to throw a fly fishing, lure to the right way to attract, whatever it is. And I think people can appreciate how you mix authenticity in business together. And that's what I'm really trying to emulate and help my clients achieve.
Yeah, a plug for my buddy George Frederick at Mirabella Kincaid, whatever their firm name is now. But I remember working with him back in 2000, and we were doing something for the website or the phone. No, it was the phone book ads or something. But the guy was coming in and taking pictures, and George had all the pug dogs. He had pugs. He loved these pugs. He had an office with all these, stuffed and ceramic, and people loved him. And I was like, what is all this? I didn't know what to think of it. And man, that guy had people coming out of the woodwork. I had no idea there was such a following of these dogs. So something like that, that's relatable to people that you can blend in. I just love it. Yeah. All right. So next, what about jumping ship? I was talking about back in the early 2000s when internet became available, and everyone's like, I'm going to make more of this money. I don't want to get paid just this much for what I'm being billed at. They do the math and they're like, I'm going to jump ship and go out there. And a lot of them have wanted to come back into a firm, and they realize the overhead, especially now with marketing and everything that's out there, it gets really expensive. So jumping ship and going on your own is an option, or you could stay put. And I've seen some firms with really happy lawyers. Some folks here in Dallas, like Goranson Bain. I remember people I was on boards with, and they're still there. That tells me that's a happy, good firm.
Well, I think you're onto something, that if you are at a firm with a terrific culture, with an open comp system, with people that you love and trust, and you're in just a wonderful environment, they're totally flexible if you want to go out of town or whatever, that's amazing. The thing that I also talk about on a regular basis is whether you're out on your own or you're at big law, it's you incorporated. You are the business under that umbrella of that firm or on the umbrella of your own firm. And so you have to build your own book of business, because every lawyer knows, and if they deny this, then they're lying to themselves, that you're really not safe as a lawyer these days if you don't have your own book of business. Freedom, control, independence all happen when you have your clients. And that means that when you're at a firm and the culture shifts, the firm gets bought, the practice area, the leader that's been feeding you work, leaves or dies or whatever it might be, you're now down to nothing. Like, you don't have the hours anymore. Now you're stuck. So you have the ability to move laterally. You have the ability to move out on your own. You are in control. You're in the driver's seat with your own book of business. So I'm continually working with lawyers, some that have multi-million-dollar books that want to keep building, and others that are building so that they can move laterally to a better culture or move out on their own. The thing that I would say right now that's unique is that there's never been a time in the world where it's easier and less expensive to move out on your own. You don't have to have a big office. You don't have to have full-time reception. You don't have to have all of these big overhead plays that they had in the early 2000s. So if you have your own clients and you can bring $2, $3, $4, $500,000 in business with you, you're going to be in a great position to build up from there. And right now you can get a VA on marketing, a VA admin, virtual assistant, anywhere in the world that's going to work for 5 to 15 an hour. And they're going to do everything for you that you need done outside of the legal work, right? Prospecting for new business and of course working with your clients. So I think there's a lot. And by the way, with the advent of AI and how that's going to change the billable hour, my prediction, and this is not just my prediction, but it's a generally well regarded and known prediction, is that there's going to take 100 lawyers to do something, second and third year associates, that it's going to take 2 lawyers to do in 5 years or 2 years. So a lot of the folks that are in big law, they're going to find themselves in a predicament, and they're going to go out on their own. They're going to join smaller firms. So I think we need to start really considering how important BD is now, even if you're looking a year, 2, 3 down the road.
So here's a hypo based on that. So let's say I am a 10-year associate at a firm of 25 to 30 lawyers, and I get approached by this Nick Augustine character who says, you should do your own marketing and have your own website. And they're like, maybe I could do that. I could have my own website that's just my name, and that Nick said that you should make it look like the other people's website so they don't get confused and know you're at the right firm. But I'm concerned that I'm going to get my head lopped off if my managing partner knows that I'm marketing. It's like, what are you doing? Are you trying to get yourself out of here? Like, what's the plan? Like, are you on our team? Are you not on our team? And then you say, well, I'm trying, the more money that I bring in is good for you, is good for me. And they're like, I don't know, it looks like you're going to jump ship. And people are scared of that, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
What do you do?
So it's going to come back to law firm culture. It's going to come back to them really knowing you as a person and your integrity. And also the fact is that may happen. And if it does, they should be happy for you. It's not about how do we hold on to someone for the rest of their life. I think that's a lovely thought. And I think years ago, that was sort of the way things worked. Today, if you look at resumes, you see people are moving to better positions all the time. And a better position for someone might be going out on their own. So you're either going to support them so they stay with you and you teach and work with them and help them along. And guess what? They go out on their own, and then they get cases they can't handle, and they feed it back to the firm. And you've got things at the firm that you can't handle. You feed it back to someone you love and trust that moved out on their own, and they're at a different price point or whatever. So it's just, again, it's like the rising tides lift all boats, and that's your mindset, or you're going to be incredibly protective of people not leaving or people doing their own thing or having their own business under your umbrella, and you're not going to allow it. And again, that's going to demonstrate, what type of culture you really have.
Yeah. I like the being honest with people and just level with them. I feel like if I knew, because everyone always thinks, I remember my father's company got bought at one time, and they said, we're not replacing everyone. And everyone's like, oh my God, we're going to be gone. Everyone look for a new job. And a lot of people left for fear of being, fired, but they didn't fire any of those people. So, sometimes you just got to communicate and be honest. All right. 2 more questions left. What is the best and the worst? So first, what's the best marketing thing that you've seen? And then followed up by what's the worst marketing thing you've seen?
This is 100% not for everybody, but I'm going to just make a statement, Nick, and you're going to love it as soon as I spit out the words. I have written 5 books. I've written for the Chicago Daily Law Bulletin. I've been writing for Above the Law. And I've done all this, online content and everything. Nothing has paid a better dividend. Nothing has been more important for my brand and how I've built business than my podcast. If you have the personality, if you have the interest, if you have a good topic and you think it's a great way to get known in your industry, to start a podcast, and here's the most important thing, leverage the content, repurpose the content, and you have to stay consistent. So if I've been doing it for 6 years straight, I'm 2 a week. So I'm coming up on, I think, 600 episodes in less than 6 years. Okay. And I'm getting calls from Copenhagen. I'm getting calls from Poland. I'm getting calls from Brazil. I'm getting, people all over the world are seeing the content I'm creating. This book behind me, 101 Top Rainmaker Secrets to Growing a Law Practice, all produced from the podcast. So I'm going to say the best of the best is if you have a thought in your head that podcasting might be for you, I'm going to say go for it. And last thing I'll say about it is, you think that it's going to take a lot of your time. I can tell you right now, it doesn't. If you have a good person to help you with it, a production team, a graphics design, a company that can help do the social media and video creation for you, you're locked in, man. I do a 30-minute show, and that's all I do. The rest of it's all done by other people. So it doesn't take a lot of my time, and the ROI has been incredible. So that's the
Yeah.
best of the best.
Yeah, there's a lot of options there. I mean, right now we're on Zoom, but we also both have access to bigger studios with production stuff and big comfy chairs, and we can look like we're on TV. I mean, it's what your budget is, and a
Yeah.
lot of times, and the thing that I'm seeing the pattern is like people doing those really high end things and doing like an hour or two of recording on different topics, and then chop that up into 6 months or a year's worth of content, and then
Yeah.
like go back every 6 months and do it again.
Yep.
And that way people aren't locked into a long haul thing. They can see that it's working, and then like they start seeing other people doing it. It's like everyone's copying everyone, but like I'd rather be the one that people are copying than the one copying others. All right, what about the worst marketing thing that you've seen? What's the cringe?
I'm going to put marketing and business development together on this answer and say what you and I covered earlier is that when lawyers go about investing a tremendous amount of time in conferences, attending events, joining groups, and they're doing networking without a system, a process, language, just like me walking, I'm not a lawyer, right, Nick? But I walk into a courtroom and I've seen My Cousin Vinny and I've seen Law and Order, so I clearly can win a case, right? No, I'm going to get fried completely by the judge and by the jury if I walk into a courtroom being me. And yet lawyers think they can just go out without learning systems and process and language to be successful in something as time consuming as networking, and that they're just going to be a hero day one or year one. It doesn't happen. It's going to suck away your time as a professional meter, as someone doing it in a way that isn't effective. And so whether it's working with a coach or whether it's just reading up on it and just taking notes and really just trying to make improvements as you go, that will cut way back on that being the worst way to spend your time.
Awesome. All right, tell us about the book. How do people get the book? How long does it take to read the book? What do people say about the book? All about the book.
Yeah, the most recent book, Be That Lawyer, 101 Top Rainmaker Secrets to Growing a Successful Law Practice. The beauty is, normally the books are me, sharing my secrets, and I'm not going to say a negative word about it because I've been doing this a long time. So you can go to Amazon and you can look my name up, Steve Fretzin, and see all my different books. The beauty of this particular book is this is 101 rainmakers. Wouldn't you want to know what, if you had 101 rainmakers in a room and you could just pick their brains, right, over a few hours? This is a very easy to read book. Now you say, well, look, I'm not a leader. I don't need to know anything about leadership. I'm a associate looking to grow and leverage. Then don't read the chapters on leadership yet, right? You can save those for later. You can pick your shots and read the chapters that most relate to what you care about and what you need. However, just hearing what rainmakers have to say, and I like, you're a good interviewer, Nick. I like to think I am as well. And so my job in my podcast and in this book was to pick out the gems. What are the most important things that are actionable and tactical that lawyers need to do to build a book of business and build brand? And that's what this book includes. So the feedback I'm getting is like, this is one of the most important books I've ever read because it's getting to the heart of what do I actually need to do as a lawyer to be like these rainmakers who have already made it.
All right, I love that. Any final parting words of wisdom before we say goodbye?
Just a quick promotion, April 15th. Keep an eye on Steve Fretzin on LinkedIn. Connect with me if you're a lawyer. But the Be That Lawyer community is going to be opening up. This is going to be an online circle community, app on your phone, website. If you're an ambitious lawyer looking to grow and you need a place to start doing the things we are talking about, this is going to be an incredible platform for you for not a lot of money. So it's kind of a very affordable way to get started learning from me and learning from other rainmakers what to do and how to do it. And so it's going to be open to the public April 15th with discounts being given April 15th to April 30th. Tons of content online about it soon.
I love that. All right, to my listeners and audience out there, I am happy and thankful for the opportunity and grateful for the opportunity to talk to my friend Steve Fretzin, who wants you to be that lawyer and he'll help you be that lawyer. And I want to let the world know that Law Talk Radio is here for all of the things. We have serious topics, we have fun topics. I've got Carl Marcian coming on in a couple hours, and he's going to give us some of the 10 craziest family law and divorce cases in Chicagoland that Yeah. So and years after knowing him when I was just a wee pup, it's kind of cool to do that stuff. So that's what Law Talk Radio is all about. Over our 20 years, and we've just rebranded again as General Law Talk Radio after being Texas Law Talk Radio since 2013. So we are back to covering things all over the place, and the response is wonderful. And I look forward to all the great content and just helping everyone know that, especially solos out there, you are not alone. And that solo paranoia, that's why guys like me and Steve are there to help you. You're at a small firm and trying to feel like, I don't know if I want to stay at this place. We'll help you find the love and see where maybe you're in a really good spot and the alternative not be so bright, So sometimes it's just like getting things going again. So that's what we're here for. If you find our Law Talk Radio programs on social media and other places, please reshare those with others who are looking for just this kind of content. Again, this has been Nick Augustine with Lone Star Content Marketing and the Law Talk Radio nationwide since 2005. Thank you again to our guest, Steve Fretzin at Be That Lawyer. Give Steve a call. He will hook you up. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate you.
You got it. Thanks, Nick.